Okay, so we're here today to talk to you about the final reports. So I'm going to share a presentation with you, and we're also going to look at the final report form on our website. So I'm just going to share my screen with you so you can see it. Okay, so from the beginning, so this is the Student Action on Saskatchewan Water Attitudes Competition. And Safe Drinking Water Foundation has been a registered charity since 1998. We have been actively focused on water quality issues in Canada. So since 2001, the SCWF has been providing schools with the materials and support necessary to educate young Canadians about water quality issues through its distribution of water education kits. And some schools have already received them. In your case, you're going to receive them soon. So if you would like more information or are interested in ordering water testing kits, check out our website. So this is the completion of your project, the final step. So all that's left is to fill out and submit the final report form. The report submission uses an online format that can be reached at this link. So we're going to take a look at that once I go over this presentation. So here are the competition criteria. So the competition rubric will be judged on quantifiable criteria. So the number and diversity of community involvement, like volunteers, survey participants, how many people change their attitudes and actions on water issues, education of people on where their water comes from. So how many people knew at the start, or what percentage of people knew at the start, and how many more people know now that you've educated your community? What did the percentage increase to? Measurable positive impact on Saskatchewan water issues. So how many liters of water will be saved each day? Or did you make an impermeable surface permeable? So you can report on both, and your best score would be used. If you have had people install water conservation devices, then do say the number of water conservation devices, but what you're really going to be marked based on is the number of liters of water saved as a result of those. And you can include photos and videos of students taking action in their community. So these are the questions that are included in the final report. So it'll include what your school name is, what your school address is. If your project took place in Saskatchewan, which it must do for this competition, you can write a description of your action project. What did you do from beginning to end? Did you or your students attend or watch any of the webinars? If yes, how many were watched and by how many students? You're not being marked on that for the competition. It's just that we would like to know and our funders would like to know. How many youth were directly involved in the implementation of this project, and youth are considered 0 to 24 years of age. Were there any volunteers involved? And if yes, how many volunteers were involved and how many volunteer hours were invested into your project? How many people did you educate? How many surveys were distributed? How many people completed each survey? How many community educational events were held? Were there any formal or informal partnerships developed through collaboration as a direct result of this program or project? So I know you've been talking with the city. There might also be watershed authorities that people work with, or volunteers from different businesses. Are there any questions so far? I guess that's a no. Okay, so what measurable impact was a result of your project? So did you decrease water usage? Were there water saving devices installed, or was an impermeable surface like concrete made permeable? So if there was a decrease in water usage, indicate the number of liters of water saved. If there was water saving devices installed, indicate how many. And if there was an impermeable surface that was made permeable, then you need to indicate the total square meters of surface that was made permeable. And outline the process used in order to calculate the decrease in water usage, the number of water saving devices installed, and or the square meters of impermeable surface made permeable. Describe the conversion factors, worksheets, or calculations you developed. And if you need any help developing formulas or working with calculations, let me know and I can help you. So the final report, did people learn where the water comes from? So what percentage of survey respondents were correct when they responded to the first survey about where the water comes from? And then what percentage of people were correct when they responded to the last survey? So after you educated them, so what percentage did you increase it up to? And then you can send in up to 12 photos and or a 5-minute or shorter video. And make sure that you have permission for these to be shared by SWF or RBC. And email any spreadsheets or tools that you created for managing and analyzing your data, because I know they won't format properly in an online form. So email them to me at info@safewater.org and include your school name in all email submissions. So the report is due this Friday at midnight, basically. So the judging, the SWF staff members will judge the objective criteria, and we have volunteer judges who will judge the subjective criteria, and that will take place this month and next month. The winner will be announced as soon as possible after the judging is complete, and the prizes will be ordered and installed in March or April. We would like to have a celebration at the winner's school, like a ribbon cutting of the water bottle filling station, presentation of the plaque, etc. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay, great. So if possible, like we had this series of webinars, so those series of webinars went through all the steps, like discovering an issue and what the competition is about, launching the competition, and then we had the baseline surveys, and then we had educating the community, and then the follow-up surveys, and now the reports. So we're hoping to have one more webinar in our series of webinars to celebrate the winning school. So it will likely take place sometime in April or May, so watch for the email announcements. And recordings of the webinars and the PowerPoint presentations will be available on our website at the Student Action Competition webpage in case there's a day you can't attend the webinar or something comes up. So questions I just asked you, so it's probably fine. So the contact information is this is our mailing address and our phone number, our email, and our website address. And as you already know, I'm really good at math. I'm a high school math teacher, so let us know if you need any help with your calculations or developing your formulas or anything like that. And thank you for joining today, and thank you to RBC for funding the competition. And next, I'm just going to show you the form on our website because it's up now. So I have clearly labeled that this is about the Saskatchewan competition. So the final reports for the Student Action on Saskatchewan Water Attitudes Competition will be due Friday, February 15th, 2019 at basically midnight. And to complete the final report of your project and have your project judged, you'll need this information. So that goes through the information that you need. And then this is the form to fill out. So I should change that. So school name would really be one name. So I'm going to change that to just a text box instead of first name, last name. But then teacher name, first name, last name, and email and phone, and grades of students and mailing address. And where did the project take place? It must have taken place in Saskatchewan to count for this competition. You need to describe your action project from beginning to end. How did you decide what issue to tackle? What issue are you tackling? The steps you took to distribute the surveys, educate the community, and the reaction you see from community members in 1,000 words or less. And did you watch any of the webinars? And how many students attended, watched the webinars? And how many youth were directly involved in the implementation of the project? How many volunteers were involved? How many hours did the volunteers volunteer? How many people did you educate? How many different surveys did you distribute? So this is not the number of surveys you distributed to people. This is how many different surveys did you distribute. So for most of you, it will be 2. It will be the preliminary or baseline survey and then the follow-up survey. But there might have been some schools that conducted 3 or more surveys. So if they were, for example, trying to see how the attitudes were changing in the middle or something, so there might be more than 2, but for most people that will be 2. How many people completed your surveys? So that's the number of people who completed them. And remember that in order for someone's data to count, they must do your survey, and then they must be educated by you, and then they must do the follow-up survey. So if any of those three parts, the preliminary survey, the education, or the follow-up survey are missing, then you can't use them and count them, and you can't use their data. So how many community educational events were held? Did you have any formal or informal partnerships that you created? And which of the following are results of your projects? So liters of water saved, water saving devices installed, square meters of impermeable surface made permeable. So if it resulted in liters of water saved, explain how many liters of water were saved. And then if it was the number of water saving devices installed, how many were installed. And if it was impermeable surface made permeable, state the number of square meters of impermeable surface which were made permeable. And if it's water conservation devices, then you can't earn points solely for the number of water saving devices installed. You have to also enter the number of liters of water that were saved as a result, and explain how you calculated the decrease in water usage and so on and so forth. If you're going to send it by email, then just you have to write something in here. The ones with stars are mandatory, so just say that I will email you the forms or the worksheets or whatever. What percentage of survey response were correct when they first responded in regards to where their water comes, and what percentage of survey response were correct when they respond to the last survey in regards to from where their water comes. And then submit that, and then email up to 12 photos and one video that is 5 minutes in length or shorter. You can also send any of those calculations and worksheets and things you can also send pictures of your calculations, and they don't that isn't included in your 12 photo maximum. So you can send photos and a video to info@safewater.org. Make sure you name your school name, and make sure that if you're submitting photos and or video that you consent that SDWF and RBC have the right to use the photos and or the video provided. So depending on your schools or your school division's policies, you might need signed release forms. And then this is how you're going to be judged. So we don't have the criteria listed here in terms of the number of people or things like that, but we do tell you what each part is out of in terms of marks. So basically everything is out of 5 possible marks except for whether various ages were engaged in the project. That one's just out of 3 marks, a little bit less important. So are there any questions? All ready to submit your report on Friday?
Yes and no.
Yes and no. So what part is no?
I'm thinking the graphs and whatnot, we're going to have to do our calculations and try to graph our answers. So we're going to work on that this week.
Okay, you actually don't have to have graphs. Like you can just have like calculations. If you want to include graphs and things, you surely can, but you don't actually have to have graphs. Okay, so,
good to know. Thanks.
So if you just stay on the line for a minute, I'm just going to stop the recording, and I was going to ask you about how that visit with the city went. So thank you for joining us today, and good luck with your reports, and I hope to see them by Friday.